Bundorio, not this week, not this week. We opened this week, surprisingly enough, with the events of last week's Boonboomger crossover kind of carrying over, with Taya's next card design being based off of the Boonboomger's partners.
They look like eyes. Big, googly anime eyes.
I mean, to be fair, that clip was kind of appropriate in this case, as he was only designing a pseudo Gohan engine, so the eyes weren't completely necessary. Then again, I guess it was based off of safari vehicles that are made to look like animals, in this case a tiger, which, yeah, was this planned or just a little coincidence? Anyway, Ty had also given it an AI that for some reason was like an actual standoffish tiger. I mean, I guess you could say he was trying to make something as sophisticated as the engines and decided to start off with just animals, but yeah, come on, this is just a really obvious setup on how they were going to acquire their new power-up of the episode. Speaking of which, Cannonborg had designed a new weapon for their side that I get the feeling is going to be on Premium Bandai later this year. Personally, I'm still trying to get a mini plot of the Boom Boom Robo at a good price. They all scam you with that shipping and handling. But yeah, as it turned out, their new weapon was an evil version of said Sentai mech, but its main gimmick wasn't a transformation feature, but rather...
Hey, nice stereo!
And its choice of tunes was Bond dance music, which, yeah, can be fun to listen to, except I'm pretty sure it was being sung by Cannonborg, or rather his VA Kujira, and, well... If there were any Japanese VA who could provide a good case for why you shouldn't smoke kids, well, there you go. That alone should have caused them significant mental damage, but its actual purpose was they could reverse the adrenaline levels of the listener. In other words, people who were excited and motivated like the Boonboomger would crash like a dedicated Yu-Gi-Oh player after they saw the latest ban list. Yeah, there's a good reason rush duels became a thing. Anyway, it had also affected Bundorio, who had likely heard it over their changers. Thus, they needed to use an alternative means of escape, and alright, I probably should have asked this sooner, but does Gemba just like have a hammer space? But yeah, in their bad hangover states, our heroes couldn't transform or do anything other than act like the staff at Toei Animation. However, Gemba had already come up with a low-energy solution that first involved a very obvious fake betrayal. I mean, yeah, they kind of played it up like he was playing a heel turn, but come on, I think even the youngest viewer could pick up on what he was actually doing. Granted, he did pull off a very convincing evil smile. I'm guessing he took lessons from Kijino. Anyway, he earned the Hashion's trust by procuring all of their requests, including getting Tashar a dress and a hat that somehow could go around her massive head, and got Deco some really disgusting looking ramen. Like, not only does that look like a calorie overload, but unless those are just yolks, those eggs don't look like they're cooked enough. Just because they're bad guys doesn't mean you should try to poison them with salmonella, Gemba. But yeah, kind of needless to say, this was fun, if only because it's actually kind of wholesome to see these three enjoying themselves. I mean, yeah, they're still villains that need to be stopped and everything, but come on, you trying to tell me you're not smiling at a robot cat lady voiced by Nana Mizuki admiring herself in a dress. Anyway, Gemba's plan became obvious to everyone, including his teammates, when the Hashiran started to play some music from their giant evil robot. Yeah, I'm guessing the song doesn't affect people whose emotions were more neutral like they were, but Gemba of course figured that festival music should be enjoyed more properly, so he gave them Boonboomger masks that didn't quite fit on their faces. You ever get the feeling like Mizuki is just biding her time until Toei lets her play Tsubomi again? Of course, getting excited while the deep Buffy music was playing brought them down a few pegs. And with the villains down, their robot was wide open to an attack from their new vehicle that, thanks to its AI, acted on its own after being impressed by Gemba's resolve to help his friends. A better approach of gaining an animal's trust than the wonderful pretty cute team's methods. Unless they're doing Yuki's methods, which, yeah, again, was this just a coincidence? I will say, though, this heartwarming scene between the Boonboomger wasn't completely earned. I mean, yeah, Gemba did a good job resolving the main conflict of this episode and everything, but they're also acting like this was some big twist, and that they're surprised he didn't betray them, even though they were only watching him for like a few minutes. Again, I still like the show, but the pacing really hurts it at times. Anyway, with the stereo gone, it also meant that the Hashan were back on their feet and wanted to have a classic Sentai mech mirror match. And surprisingly, even though they didn't have armaments like the good guys, they could just punch harder. Yeah, as it turned out, Cannonball could actually hack their robot to give it higher base stats, so they had the advantage for the first part of the fight. But as is the rules of Sentai, when introducing a new weapon, it gets the instant win buff. Kinda makes you wonder who's actually using the hacks here. But yeah, overall, not a bad fight, as at least it was mostly practical this week, and I am a bit of a sucker for all of the sparks flying, but I'm also hoping this isn't the last we see of the evil version of this team's mech, because it's a cool idea. Anyway, the episode ended with Boondorio introducing his newest culinary creation, which was a curry with a bunch of fried foods, which they did rightfully point out looked like a heart attack on a plate, but we're also seeing this after that ramen, so it kind of loses its impact as well. This was an okayish episode, with some interesting concepts that hopefully we'll see more of later. Yes, the main conflict was kind of rushed, with Genba's not at all believable betrayal, and the Safari just kind of fixing things for them. But it was a good moment for the character, plus the villains remain charmingly entertaining. Probably one of the most interesting facts about this episode was who wrote it, Tatsuto Higuchi, and this is actually only his second Sentai episode ever, his first being the 6th of this season, which also involved characters having their emotions manipulated, which also made for one of the funniest episodes of the season so far. Thus, I think comedy might be a specialty judging by both of these episodes and other series he's written for, including a bunch of episodes of Yu-Gi-Oh! 7s and Go Rush, and of all things, he also head wrote Cross Ange. Yeah, by far one of the most insane and yet surprisingly well written mech anime I've seen in a while. Thinking about it also makes me think of Itashar as a bitchy mech pilot who fights dragons and incel gods. But yeah, on that note, the Hashan just kinda stole this episode with their antics. Sure, Genba's plan was neat and everything, but really, just seeing how much these three were enjoying his pampering was hilarious, and yet also kind of wholesome. Honestly, I kind of felt bad when he betrayed them, but yeah, that also speaks to how this conflict wasn't great, with how quickly it was just kind of resolved, just so that they could introduce this week's new toy. It's not the worst thing, it just felt like a bit of an undercooked plot point. I also hope this wasn't the last we've seen of the Hashan's evil mech, because it's a cool concept that recent Sentai seasons haven't quite taken full advantage of. Still, overall, this was an okay episode, mostly elevated by the Hashan being entertaining as all hell. Who knows, maybe in a future episode, Higuchi will have Itashar sing. The next part of the Max Heart review seems like it'll be done maybe in like the next 2 weeks, though knowing my luck, it'll probably be closer to like the end of June. Regardless, it has been fun to do actual pretty cool reviews in light of the absence of the usual weekly reviews, and while the OG certainly has its problems, it is more fun and rewarding to do it rather than just doing short reviews all the time. So look forward to it, and until then though, for now my friends, and yeah, joke's on you, that stuff isn't gonna work on me. I'm already burnt out as all hell.